Good afternoon and good morning to you all. Thank you for joining us. My name is Marissa Matz, and I'm the founder of Matz Learning Solutions and Rising Legacy. Today, we are together for our final 2025 Power Friday workshop centered around the topic of the art of self promotion. And the reason I named it the art of self promotion is because it is or can be a difficult journey for us to self promote, talk about our accomplishments, talk about our wins. And just because you come to a short workshop, you will by no means be ready to blurt out instantly all of your wins to your manager or to your coworkers. And this art will require us to practice, will require us to maybe change our mindset about what it means to talk about our accomplishments and our wins and our successes out loud. We might write it down, we might journal it, or we might just write it on a self-assessment evaluation that we're asked to complete at the end of every year. So know that this is can be a lifelong journey for you to practice talking about your wins, and we're going to begin that practice for you today. So before I begin, I want to tell you a little about myself if you are meeting me for the first time. So I'm Marissa, and I have been in training and learning and development and leadership development for I think it's coming up on 22 years. And throughout this career, I have worked with thousands of leaders. I think I facilitate about 1,500 people per year, over 20 years. That's a lot. When we think about leadership, the definition of leadership, who we are as leaders, how we operate in our communities or our organizations as leaders, this definition can be very unique to you. And I invite you to define leadership for yourself and caution against what some author or influencer defines as leadership, or even within your organizations, what they define as leadership. Um, I created Rising Legacy, which is I'm going to say, a movement to invite women to come together in community just like we are right now, to think about leadership differently, to navigate leadership differently in our organizations, uniquely defined and framed to you and your identity and your background, and then be able to navigate it with full confidence, navigate it with your voice, which is why this topic came about. So, this is about my fifth Power Friday workshop that I facilitated over the last year, because there are many different topics that come up in my one-to-one coaching um, with women leaders on the things that they need help with. And because this was a theme and a pattern that comes up frequently, I thought, let me put a workshop together. So I invite everyone who's joining us live, or even if you're joining on a recording, please grab a notebook, something to write with, or if you prefer digital notes, open up a blank Word document or a OneNote document to have side by side to our Zoom window, because we will be taking lots of notes. And I really want you to think about how this content today applies to your real world. So let's get started. We're going to cover three, I think, heavy hitting topics related to self promotion. First, we're going to focus our attention on our mindsets. So every one of us has a unique life story, a unique professional background, and the way that you were raised, where you were raised, your families. And when it comes to self promotion, we all have a different bias and lens. I'm going to invite us all to begin to think about self promotion as a leadership characteristic or a leadership behavior that we can more fully come into ourselves, more come into our identities and our bodies. The second thing that we're going to be covering today is something called creating or building our win bank. Um, Throughout my many years working within private corporations, I have asked employees and leaders to track and keep a journal of something called the win bank. Mostly because being from the HR team, typically at the end of the year, we ask employees, what have you accomplished this year? What are your results that you have contributed to the business? It's more tactical. It's for that self-assessment review. Today, we're going to reframe that win bank and we're going to reframe it for ourselves. What have I accomplished recently? What kind of check boxes have I completed recently that I'm really proud of? Because I never thought that I possibly could have done that. So we're going to create this win bank for ourselves. Then lastly, I'm going to give you some homework because crafting what's called your signature success story is a practice that I've been talking about recently with women leaders to ensure that we have in our back pocket. And it's more than just like an elevator speech. It's not that. It's how do we find ways to interject in conversation with people our success stories, whether they be small successes or larger successes. How do we do that comfortably? All right, so those are our three topics for today. I'm really excited. Grab your notebook and get ready to take some notes. So let's move. I'm going to begin today by talking about something that I don't think is often discussed, especially in the workplace. Again, mostly I facilitate workshops in private corporations. So whether you work in the public sector, private sector, or nonprofits or foundations, I want you to think about your background and what you've been told or taught throughout your life around self promotion. And I think about even the way that my parents encouraged me or discouraged me to talk about my successes. Because some messages that we might have heard throughout our lives is, if you talk about yourself, you're going to sound arrogant, or, you know, you're a girl, maybe tone it down a bit. You don't want to be that loud voice in the room that's just this egotistical woman that steps into a room and can dominate a space. Like, keep it down. Just think about that. Has anyone said anything like that to you? I also want you to think about any messages that you might have received again throughout your life, whether it be a parent or a teacher or a coach or a mentor that said, just keep your head down. And I'll share with you a quick story. My mother, in the 1970s, became one of the first Mexican American women computer programmers in California. And the reason that she got that job is because it was the height of affirmative action. She was was working for a company in like typing, like data entry. And a manager of hers came in the room and said, any of you in here, women, like math and science, because I need to pull some of you from this training or from this job into a training space so that you all can learn how to be computer programmers. And 1974, it's like, what's that? And my mother raised her hand and she said, I want to learn how to be a computer programmer. And she went to the training, and guess what? She was the only woman. And through a 20-year career, she learned when to keep her head down and then when to speak up. And I'll tell you, in the 70s and the 80s and even in the 90s, when she would speak up, like, who is this 5 foot tall Mexican woman speaking up? So she got hurt many times. And so now she has me, and I walk into the workplace for our company. And she told me, even throughout her whole career of working in a male dominated space, she said, Marissa, at first, keep your head down. Just learn the ropes, learn the politics, keep your head down. And then later on, maybe you can speak up here and there. And I thought to myself, okay, mom, you have a career in corporate America. Maybe I should do that too. But in school, what was I don't know, interesting is when I was in school, she really encouraged me to be somebody and be a leader and volunteer for things. But in the workplace, it was like she was warning me, like, be careful, because the workplace is a different monster. And I don't know, maybe you can give me some emojis here in Zoom or reactions if anything like that resonates with you, um, comparing your school life to your work life. So think about any messages you've received. And then the last thing here is, does your organization or have there been models that help you speak up and talk about your successes for self advocacy success? Or are they missing and you have no idea how to do it, who to do it with? These are all things that hold us back and keep us quiet. Like, don't rock the boat. Just sit and say, sure, yeah, I'll do that. And be this more supportive role, even though inside you're burning. You want to say something, you want to promote yourself, but I don't know if I should. I don't know if this is the right room. I don't know if anybody's going to care. All these things, that I call it self-talk, come across our brains and like then we start to question ourselves. And then guess what happens? We miss the chance. It's too late. So I want us to think about what else can hold you back from self-promotion. So you can either come off mute here. I'd love to hear another voice, or you can open up your chat. I'd just like to hear maybe a short phrase. What else holds you personally back from sharing? Anyone care uh, to to share with us any thoughts? Okay, I see somebody in the chat. Let me see here. Yeah, that we're being seen as egotistical. And I want us to think where that comes from. Is that the same that a male counterpart in the workplace would feel? Or is it us? What's going on up here? Us, exactly, Bridget. We stand in the way of ourselves. And what has happened over the years and generations that hold us back? Please go ahead.
I was going to say, I think all of us, many of us deal with imposter syndrome, right?
Mhm.
So, in a sense, like we don't totally, should know the job 10 out of 10, right? So we hold back on that. Like we still need to learn more of our role and the company and everything. So
Yeah,
I think we deal with that a lot and that we
mm,
shouldn't give credit where credit's due yet.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I would say the men counterparts, they're just like, you know what? I'm going to share everything, even if I know I have, 2 out of the 10, requirements. I,
Requirements,
I
yeah.
know everything, and I'm going to share with everybody that I know it or I'm soon to know it. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I just think it's like from our mothers is not to speak up, right?
yeah.
You'll get credit where credit's due when you're
Mm,
silent. They'll see the work instead of
right,
sharing the work.
right, right. We often think that our work product will speak for itself. We're a really hard worker. We perform, we put in long hours, we go above and beyond. Someone will notice. Some do. Some spectacular leaders that have been on our side that might empathize with the situation or even our like communication styles. Some people, men and women and other genders, they feel so comfortable speaking out loud, and then you think to yourself, is that just because they're really extroverted? And then some of us, so it's even beyond these maybe cultural norms or gender norms that we're restricted by. It's, I'm pretty shy and I struggle talking about myself, and it's not very comfortable. I'm a pretty reserved person. But I want us to think about how these styles, these innate characteristics that we might have, still hold us back in the corporate workplace. I'm going to speak from that lens, in the corporate workplace that reward the loudest voice in the room and might overlook the quieter voices in the room, which is why I put this together here. So let's get into the actual actions that anyone, regardless of your extroversion or introversion or your the norms that you've been taught, regardless of that, let's all consider in our work world what could work for us to increase this ability on our voices to speak up about ourselves. So I'm going to call on Marie Michelle. So good to see you. What thoughts do you have?
Hi, can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. First of all, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Marissa.
Sure.
I before you head back to the presentation and the next point, I think that for me, the things that can hold us back is, um, well, especially when you're starting your own business or you're putting forward a new product.
Oops. Marie
Oh my,
Michelle,
can you
it
hear me?
cut off, but you're back now. Mhm.
Okay. Can you
Yes.
hear me?
All
Okay,
good.
good.
Yes.
See
All
me
good.
now. Hi.
Yes. Hi.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Yes, so I was saying if you're putting forward a project that is very close to your heart or you're starting a new business, I think it's
Mhm.
very vulnerable to put yourself out there. So that vulnerability makes it harder to just be yourself and the fear of being criticized and judged. I feel like as women, we are conditioned to only show up or speak or present something if it's perfect, so that need to be irreproachable is kind of a deterrent towards just being out there doing your thing. Unfortunately, I don't think we have as much we're not giving as much grace as our male counterparts to that regard. So I think that these are two things that are very hard and very difficult to get over when it comes to the fear of being seen or perceived in a certain way.
Mhm.
And you add that to the fear of being seen as egotistic or conceited or whatever.
Mhm.
But and the composition of the people in the room, if you don't have at least one ally or someone that you can look to when presenting, even if the rest of the room feels hostile, at least you have that one person that's like, you go, yeah, just
Your
like,
friend.
yes, yes, you can lock eyes with them and they're like, you got this.
Mhm.
If you don't have that, it's going to be exponentially harder to just show
Mm,
up and
mm,
be your true self, no matter what you're
mm,
presenting.
mm, mm. I love your insights. Thank you so much. Spot on.
You're
And
very
I see
welcome.
some hearts and nodding here. So thank you. Now that we've laid that out on the line, yes, this all exists. Let's get into 3 steps um, of actionable things that we can do to move forward, to open up. So, first is along these lines, step number one is to do something called reframe our inner narrative, which I think we're starting to do already. In this step, I want us to think about self promotion as leadership in action. Those males don't have any problem with it. How do we think about self promotion as leadership in action versus bragging? The second thing is sharing our wins models success. Sharing our wins inspires others, and sharing our wins opens doors. I think about my daughter. She's 9 years old, and I want to change her view and perception of gender differences. You know, she's starting fresh. She's only 9 years old. I'm sure she's already gotten an idea of that in at school. But when I can do that at home with her, I want her to do that with me. And so at the end of every night, um, our family shares the best part of our day, the hardest part of our day, and the thing that we're most grateful for. And now I might say, share your win. You can say the best part of your day or a win that you had today. Because when that's normalized, We all win. And then the third behavior here is use the who else benefited lens. Every time you share a win, it does have a ripple effect, everybody, even in the workplace. So when you are a leader, whether you're a leader that has direct reports or not, I want you to think about how that can set a stage for normalizing and making more comfortable the ability to talk about our successes and our wins in a comfortable, safe way. So, group, open up your chats. And I want us to have some dialogue here. Again, if you want to come off mute, we're only a small group here. I love some verbal dialogue. But in the chat or out loud, think about a win that you've held back recently. Maybe because you were worried it would sound like bragging, or you were worried that, as Marie Michelle described, the people in the room listening to this weren't in support of you. It was more of a hostile or tension room. You didn't have that ally in there and you held back. What happened? So in the chat, I'll give you a minute here. You can think of something that happened recently. You can just describe it in a short phrase, or you can come off mute and I'd love to hear from you. Any stories? Oh, good. Thank you. Marie Michelle, please.
I'm always here with my hand raised. I feel like I'm still in school, but I want to ask, or I want to propose maybe a reframe or like a nuance
Sure.
to your
Okay.
question.
Sure.
I feel like not everybody necessarily has the same definition of a win. I think
Mm,
that for certain people, depending on what you're working through in your life, a win could
mm,
just be um, the fact that you finally prioritized yourself and said no to things that you didn't want, which is not necessarily something that is like outwardly praised, but it's something that you can praise yourself for, or the
mm,
people close
mm,
to you
mm.
can salute. Versus, I will, I will share something right away. Today, not tomorrow, marks the first year anniversary of me launching my business website.
Yay! Huge
So I feel
win.
like thank you. But I feel like that's what we would think of as a
Right.
win when we're
Mm,
in
mm,
the definition or in the
mm.
sense of what you've explained
Yeah, in
so
this
far. But
context.
I feel like yes, exactly. So these are two great wins, like being able to prioritize yourself and also business or corporate or professional wins.
Mm. Even I got 6 hours of sleep. That was more than I got in any other day of this week. Yes. Oh, when I have a full night's sleep, man, the whole rest of the day is different than when you struggle with sleep. So that's my win from last night. Thank you. You're right. When I describe this, it's like, give me something big. Well, it doesn't have to be big. It can just be for you to label, call out for yourself. Thank you so much. In the chat says, I can't think of one recently, but I had to dig deep and I was rewriting my resume to get past that worry and fill it with wins. Digging deep. Hmm. Um, yeah, thank you. When that's a bigger, more formal thing that represents us, right? And unfortunately, that's the first entry into someone's view of you in the professional world. And that can be difficult to take this document and say, this is my representation of who I am. Give me a chance. And when you get to meet me, you'll see I'm fantastic. But they have to see that paper first. It's like, and it's can be subjective, and especially in this AI world, has to be so focused on those keywords and weeded out with technology versus, get to know me and you will see that I am the perfect person for this role. So thank you so much. Group, we're going to go to step 2 here. And in step 2, once we work through reframing what wins are, how the ripple effect impacts others, not just ourselves, step 2 is something called building your win bank. I think similar in building off of what Marie Michelle just said, you may already have more wins than you realize. And you're probably forgetting what these are. So we're going to work on this right now. Take a look at your notebook or anything that you have written or open in front of you, if it's a Word doc or OneNote or notebook. So I'll share with you that I have a unique separate notebook that I keep in my office. I might go step over there in a moment and grab it and show you. That is called my Marissa journal. I don't call it like my wins journal. I'm sure I can if I want, but this is like my journal. It's not my notebook where I take, work notes in it. It's like my safe space. And I decided that I wanted to buy its own journal, and I use one specific pen to in this journal, and I don't use that pen and I don't use that journal for anything else. Those two things are married to each other. Okay. And so, what I invite you to do in your own unique way, whether it's just your notebook right now or an open Word doc, I want you to title it Win Bank or, My Day, Marissa's Day, or whatever you want to call it. But in essence, this thing called a win bank that can track your accomplishments, that can track your um, reinforcing feedback, things that you want to keep doing, your stories. Because I don't know about you, but my memory as I get older is going out the door. And I used to call it mom brain, but it's more than that. I think it's perimenopause. I don't know, but my memory is so bad. And so, in order for me to keep this evidence, this tracking document, I invite you to just write down a phrase or something that happened throughout the day daily. Like, can you write one thing for yourself every day as this win bank? And that's going to be a challenge for you. I'll give you some challenges at the end of our session here. So, I'm not going to give you 3 minutes, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Title your list, have a blank sheet of paper. And if you could, think about these small wins, even if I prioritize myself. I got 6 hours of sleep. That's more than, and even some of you might like 6 hours. I need 8 hours. Well, I get 6 hours. That's a big win for me. Or I ate enough vegetables today. Those small wins. I went for a 20-minute walk. I prioritized myself, or it can be big, maybe a work project you just finished. Write down 3 to 5 things, maybe from 2025, big or small. So I'll give you another about minute and a half now. Write down a couple things and then we'll come back. Okay. So I wanted to show you all my journal. Look how pretty that is. And this is my pen. Where did it go? This one. These two things, they go together. And just the fact that I've, called out this special gift to myself makes me want to use it. It's not just in the big pile of black notebooks that I have. And so I'll admit I don't do this every day, even though I'm inviting you all to do it every day. But the fact that it's here, the fact that I can document just some things, you know, when I'm not here on this earth anymore, I hope that my daughter can look at this and say, look at my mother. I had no idea she accomplished all these things. And that's my ripple effect. And that's my legacy, is so that she can be honored and so proud of all the things that the family accomplished together and, be able to celebrate. So consider that, everybody, just your win bank. Keep it here with you. Because number three then is crafting your signature success story. So I call it this because these impromptu moments in our lives won't be a scheduled meeting. They won't be a performance evaluation. These are moments throughout our day where we say, is this a good time to interject this success story? So, what I want you to think about in a more formal workplace is decision makers, your manager or your manager's manager, they remember stories, a story that you told versus an email with your bullet points from your performance evaluation. Okay. So think about how these stories come up informally, either in a one on one or over, you're in line at the cafe at work or at a lunch. What kinds of stories can you put together versus just email? The second thing is, these impromptu moments that might show up throughout your day. Be able to recognize who the audience is. Think about some questions that these people might ask you about your success story. And you might even want to rehearse how your voice best delivers this message. So, this isn't going to happen perfectly today. And, if you think about practicing at home, just as I shared in my family, every night we share the best part of our day, the hardest part of our day, and the thing we're most grateful for. If in that very intimate, safe setting, you're able to comfortably share a success story, I mean, what perfect practice is that? Because that can then transfer over into more of a professional setting where it's just chit chat, dialogue versus, so this is who I am and this is what I've accomplished today. It's just more comfortable, safe dialogue at work. Then the last thing I invite you to jot down, if this resonates with you, is keep these three things in mind. Come into the conversation with clarity. Like, this is what I want to share. This is the value of my success story. Think about connecting it to an uplifting, positive sense. Like, this is what happened, and this is the ripple effect, or this is what happened, and this is the impact it made. And the last thing is, which is important, which is key to applying all of these things, back at work, which is, how do we make this a habit? Even if today's session has you walk away with jotting down one success or one win at the end of every day, fantastic. If this class has you walk away with inviting your family to share the best part of their day or a win out loud, every night at dinner, that's a huge habit to create. Or even if you're a leader on this call and you have direct reports, I highly recommend you create a consistent pattern within your teams to say, in our next one-on-ones, I'm going to begin to ask you to share your success story for the week or share your number one win with me at the end of every week or in our next one-on-ones. Because that consistency helps everyone on your team, regardless of gender, just gets people talking more consistently and more comfortably about their wins if you invite. Because that action of invitation will definitely set the stage for someone comfortable to share with you in return. And I invite everybody to do this as well with your leaders in the workplace. So then it's like this, it's an expectation of let's share wins, let's share wins, let's share wins, let's share wins. And it becomes normal versus like, I don't know if I can say that right now. All right, so I'm going to pause group. How are we doing? I have 3 minutes. What questions do you have about all of the 3 steps, the things I've been saying, anything that's top of mind that you want to get out while we're still on the call here? You can type it in the chat, or you can come off mute. All right. If you're still typing, keep going. Here on my slide, sometimes some reframing can help, just as we started off this session. So instead of feeling like we're bragging, think about it as we're leading. Instead of saying something like, oh, I'll just forget, like actually write it down, as I've mentioned. And instead of listing out your accomplishments, think about storytelling. So when we can think about leadership, documenting, and storytelling, these can be shared in team meetings, making it a practice of sharing successes and wins within your team meeting. Think about sharing successes on LinkedIn, where you can think about some lessons that you learned this week. People love that stuff because we all need some sort of inspiration throughout the week. And you know, with all the state of the world, if there's anything positive within social media, I get attracted to that. Like, oh God, please help me, because I don't even know where to turn. So if you share successes, people will definitely hone in on that. I think about one-on-ones that you have with your leaders or any project managers that you work with. Track those wins, and then so important. Give your peers shout outs. Celebrate your colleagues along with yourself, because that can really help support teams and recognition. What I will say, a caveat to that is if you're giving a peer shout out, really understand your peer and how public or private they like shout outs, because sometimes people don't like public recognition and that upsets them. So really recognize or ask, like, how do you like feedback? Do you like public recognition? Because I'd love to share this in the next team meeting, for example. And if the person's like, sure, yeah, no problem, great, do that. And if they say, oh no, that's not necessary, then you can just write them an email saying, thank you so much for this. You impacted me in this way. And a short email will go a long way if people like more private recognition. So find that out before you do. So I'm going to go into, let's see, Carrie. Hi, Carrie. What's going on?
I haven't used the mic yet, so can you hear this?
Yes.
Oh, it does work. Okay, it's the 1st time using that camera. I wanted to ask a question about what you
Sure.
said about use the who else benefited lens. Like every time you share a win, does that mean, to your last point on this slide, does that mean who else benefited, who else contributed, who else can I shout out, like a peer shout out? Or does it mean like, yeah, that's the explanation I was looking for.
So this is more of the introspective win bank that I was suggesting, where you think to yourself, I did this went well, and this kept the project on track. This helped mentor one of my more junior colleagues because this happened. I taught them this. Whether you share that out loud or not, the fact that you're able to connect one of your wins with the ripple effect, that can just be so self-motivating for you to want to keep doing this practice, pushing you, even if you don't share it out loud. This is different. This public recognition, peer shout out, if applicable, but at minimum, be able to say the fact that I got this done impacts other people. And that's a huge thing for me because I love supporting my team. Something like that. Does that help, Carrie? Great.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. So there was just a quick question in the chat about the video being recorded. It is being recorded. And then let's see here. I'd like to work on my win bank in the chat because I really do forget about who I am and what I've accomplished. Me too. And that journaling. Good, good. So yeah, that's why I wanted to share with this with you. I was just at a bookstore, and they had the most beautiful journals I have ever seen in my life. And I'm the kind of person that walks into a bookstore or a stationery store and wants one of everything. So go treat yourself to that, or look online. There is beautiful work out there that people do for journals and really nice pens. Trust me, if you have a nice pen, you're going to want to use it. So and they're not expensive, these things, a journal, a pen, they're small things that we can really do some great things for ourselves. So, group, final thoughts. I want to honor your time. Visibility fuels opportunity. Think about that. Silence keeps us small, and celebrating our wins sets the tone for others. I think about my daughter, and that's good leadership. Okay. So, here's some action steps. Are we ready? Capture 3 wins in your bank if you didn't do that here in the session. Get 3 things started, see how it goes daily. Go in there, write one thing down. Craft your 3-minute success story. Maybe share that with your family. Again, informally, like what was the best thing of your day today? And then share that out loud. And then that's my last point here, share it out loud. Put it on LinkedIn. Call your best friend. Tell them what happened today. Share it with your manager. If you put it on LinkedIn, you can tag me and I can celebrate you. And then we can get this like ripple effect. Yay, we did it. Even if it's, I survived another day in 2025, with all of the things that are happening in our world, we get to celebrate them. All right, groups. Thank you so much, everybody. Good to meet you. Have a great week. Good luck with those success stories. Please share. People want to hear from you. Take care. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.